In this video, I'm going to be discussing how to implement a language classroom activity, which can also be modified for a small group therapy session. This can be applied towards clients with speech-language impairments, the deaf and hard of hearing population, and can be modified to fit various age groups and any necessary goals. Language classroom activities are a great way to collaborate with teachers and their lesson plans, emphasizing specific vocabulary that will be reinforced outside of speech therapy. They also provide opportunities to be creative in addressing large caseloads and can therefore provide services to multiple children at one time. The overall classroom environment language activity ends up being beneficial to all students involved and just reinforces the things they are currently learning and goals that they are addressing. The language activity presented in this video has a spring theme and can be presented to the elementary age population. Again, this can be modified to address specific goals or appropriate milestones for that age population. I have also presented this to a mixed class of kindergarten and first graders, as well as a second grade classroom, and have also done this with the deaf and hard of hearing population. This video will show higher level objectives. I call this the Spring Theme Language Group Activity that addresses the following objectives. Identify and express vocabulary, categories, prepositions, and past tense verbs, and identify grammatical errors and correct them, including plurals, conjunctions, articles, past tense verbs, and prepositions. In order to conduct this language classroom or group therapy activity, you will need the following materials: a printed short paragraph about spring or a spring-themed book, butterfly and flower pictures, a watering can, a net, a plush bunny rabbit, carrots, artificial or plush flower, plush butterfly or butterfly object, bucket, shovel, butterfly and flower objects with attached sentence cards, a dry erase board, and a dry erase marker. It should be noted that if you are unable to obtain these actual objects, you can go ahead and print large pictures of these items. However, it is recommended to have three-dimensional objects for the processing and function of this therapy activity. Additionally, the three-dimensional objects is the first way that children can grasp new vocabulary concepts much easier than printed pictures that are static. So to begin, I like to usually start my sessions off reading a short paragraph about spring or a short spring-themed book, depending on my age population, how much time we have, and whether or not I know my clients can read, and therefore I can provide them with a pre-printed paragraph about springtime to follow along, or they can follow along with the book and the pictures. Occasionally, I like to begin language class activities with a short, fun, interactive song, especially for the little ones. But today, since we're focusing on higher level, I am going to read the short paragraph about springtime and also a book about bunnies. Now, when you present it, I would only choose one or the other based on your time limitations. So before you begin to read the short paragraph about springtime, it'd be important to print up enough copies for each student in your classroom or group so that they can have the visual to follow along if they are able to and if they want to. So before you begin reading this short springtime paragraph, it would be a good idea to have some of those materials and three-dimensional spring-themed objects ready. That way, as you're reading the paragraph, you can utilize them to associate with the story, and giving those visuals is a really great way for the students to connect to what you are reading and discussing. For example, spring is one of the 4 seasons and is in between winter and summer. This season usually occurs during the months of March, April, and May. Many trees, flowers, and plants begin to grow during spring. You can see bunnies hopping and caterpillars turning into butterflies. You might even be able to catch a butterfly with a net. And then you can give them the example. Caught the butterfly in the net. And then you can ask, what happened to the butterfly? What did I do with the net? I caught a butterfly. The butterfly is in the net. So by doing this, you're giving them some examples of what's to come and what's going to be asked of them regarding prepositions and even past tense verbs. Or you can read a book about bunnies to the younger ones. So you can show them, the title of the book is Bunnies by Laura Ellen Anderson. Bunnies come in all shapes and sizes. And at this time, you could walk up to a student and ask them to point to one of the bunnies, to point to the pink bunny, to point to the brown bunny, white bunny. Since this video is about expressive language though, you don't need to focus too much time on it, but if you were to want to focus on receptive language, this would be another opportunity to bring that in through story reading. Bunnies hide in bunny holes. Bunnies nibble carrots. Bunnies hop through spring flowers. Bunnies like to jump in puddles. Bunnies like to sit in huddles. Bunnies romp in the woods. Bunnies play with chicks. Thump, 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 thump. Bunnies go thump, thump, thump. And you can get the students to stomp along with you just to make it a little more playful and fun and get them motivated for what's to come. Twitch, twitch. Bunnies twitch their noses. Bunnies sit under the stars. Bunnies like to snooze. Good night, bunnies. The end. So by reading the book, you have been able to introduce some of the vocabulary that's to come. By reading the paragraph, you've also introduced some vocabulary that's to come. We discussed flowers. So here is your plush flower that you can bring out. We discussed carrots. So here's the carrots that you can bring out. You can even have real carrots if you want to incorporate food and edibles. Here is plush butterfly, which we discussed. Here is a net. Here is the shovel. Here is a bunny rabbit. And here is a watering can. All different kinds of spring-themed items. Following the introduction by utilizing the stories, depending on time limitations or the age group or the therapy goals, you could ask the class or group just a few questions that are related to what you just read about, such as how many seasons are there, what months occur in spring, what insect comes to life in spring, what animals do you often see in the springtime, what begins to grow in spring, just to get the discussion going and get their expressive language going in responding to those questions, and also allowing them to utilize the vocabulary that we're slowly building upon and learning. Through this discussion, you can use the dry erase board at this time and develop a list of all these items to help categorize this vocabulary under the category of spring. And together as a class, you can come up with each item, and you can utilize the objects such as the bunny and the flower and the other objects I showed you to help use as visual cues if you sense that your group or class is needing some prompts in order to develop that list. And then following this, I like to always try and incorporate relationships between items, which in this case will also be able to incorporate verbs. So I like to ask, with the flowers and the watering can, I like to ask, what is the relationship between flowers and the watering can? And this also helps them grasp what each of these items are and helps them retain this vocabulary. So if I'm watering the flower, water makes flowers grow. So what is the relationship between a watering can and a flower? Well, the watering can makes the flower grow. Another connection and relationship you can make and ask is, what is the relationship between a butterfly and the net? So what do? You use a net to catch the butterfly. The net catches the butterfly. What did I just do with the net? I caught a butterfly. And there's my past tense verb. Now, during these previous activities, you could have asked a teacher or an aide or some other adult in the classroom to go and hide the various spring objects or the spring printed pictures of the butterflies. Whatever you would like to do, that's up to you. The focus of this activity is prepositions. So by hiding them around the room in various places in relationship to items, you can put them in things, on things, under things, behind things, etc., etc. The goal here is for the students to be able to identify prepositions. I like this activity because it gets students out of their seats. It allows them to be actively involved in the therapy session, and it just makes it a little bit more fun and a little bit more motivating, and they get really excited when they have to go find where the hidden object is. So you're going to ask for individual student volunteers to go and find the object, maybe butterflies, bunnies, whatever it is, but perhaps butterflies, and then you can hand them the net. And this way it gives them something to hold and allows them to go actually find and catch something, which will then be utilized later to promote past tense verbs. So once the object is found, for example, the butterfly could be sitting on a chair. So once the object is found, you ask the student where they found the butterfly. And you can give them a verbal or written prompt on the board if needed, if they need that cue. So you can say, I found the butterfly, and then they need to fill in the preposition. So you ask them, where did you find the butterfly? Repeat after me, I found the butterfly on the chair. So you can also utilize sentence completion too to try and help them understand the concept of the objects. So I found the butterfly under the chair, if it was under the chair. Then, once they have the butterfly, you can say, okay, catch the butterfly with your net. They catch the butterfly. You can ask them, what did you do? And the goal is that they will be utilizing the appropriate past tense verb. I caught the butterfly. Now, this is irregular past tense, so again, it depends on what the goals and what you're aiming for, but you can always give them cues if necessary. Following this activity is where we are going to look at identifying and correcting grammatical errors. So take turns and you select an individual student to draw a picture card, or what I did is I attached objects to the back of my sentence card. So they can draw a picture card or a sentence card from the bucket, and it's either going to have a butterfly or it's going to have an attached flower. Okay? After they draw the butterfly or the flower card, I will place these items, or you can place these items, next to some of our other spring items. Next to, you can put it on, you can put it behind, and now here's another opportunity to bring in the use of prepositions. So you can quickly do that with one of the objects provided, and then ask the student to provide a sentence regarding the location of the butterfly or the flower. So, where is the flower? And the answer we would want is it's next to the bunny. If needed, you can provide options and prompts. You can ask if it is behind, next to, on. Give them choices if need be. After having the student produce a sentence with a preposition very quickly, you can then ask the child to read the sentence card that's attached to the flower or butterfly. If you don't have these items, on the back of the card you're going to want to have the picture of a butterfly or a flower printed. So ask the student to read it. If you know there are some reading challenges or deficits, then you can also read the sentence to the student. After the sentence is read, you will want to write the sentence on the dry erase board so that the entire class or the entire group can see and utilize it for a visual prompt. So after the sentence is read, you can ask the student if it is correct or incorrect. If they need some prompts or cues or would like to request assistance from a classmate, they can do so and you can provide the prompt or cue. So for example, this card says, "The flower are growing." So you ask the student, is this correct or incorrect? Hopefully they'll say incorrect, otherwise you can use those other steps. When they say incorrect, you say, what is incorrect? Or what do you need to change? At this time, you can ask them also what they believe is wrong and how to fix it. It's another way. So you can have them come up to the board where you've written the sentence and correct the sentence or grammatical error. This gives them the opportunity to be involved and actively involved in the therapy session and the activity, and it keeps them motivated, it keeps them focused, and I have found that a lot of students really enjoy writing on the dry erase board. So with this specific sentence, it says, "The flower are growing." So we need to correct the grammatical error, and in this case, this is plural. The flower are growing should be the flowers are growing. Another card that could be chosen out of the bucket, the bunny hopping in the field. The bunny hopping in the field. So there's a grammatical error here. The sentence is correct. So it needs to be identified what is incorrect and how to fix it. So here we're completely missing the verb is. The bunny is hopping in the field. And with certain speech and language impairments, especially with the deaf and hard of hearing population, this commonly is left out. So this would be another potential example. One more example, a sentence, "Yesterday I smelled the flowers." So this is incorrect. The idea would be that they'd identify the grammatical error as being an incorrect past tense verb. If you're talking about something that already occurred, it would need to say, "Yesterday I smelled the flowers." And again, this is another opportunity to involve other classroom students if the child requests for assistance. Our goal is to get the individual to do it independently or through clinician prompting, but they can always utilize their fellow classmates to assist them. Another option too, especially if they are in small groups, is you can have different colored buckets to represent different goals or grammatical items. So you can have a bucket for articles, you can have a bucket for conjunctions, you can have a bucket for past tense verbs. To be able to put the specific sentences with those specific grammatical errors in those buckets, then you will know which bucket you can hand to the specific student, knowing what goals they are working on and what you want to be able to utilize in therapy specifically for them. And then you basically repeat the process with the new participating individual, and you just cycle through until your time runs out or you go through all the sentence cards. I have found that this classroom language activity is motivating, it's exciting, it allows the students to be actively involved in their therapy sessions, and it doesn't feel like therapy to them. And this is partially due to the fact that it's not just one activity, but it's a bunch of activities that build on each other and continue to emphasize various concepts. And like I said before, all of this can be modified. You can take away one activity, You can include all the activities, you can modify the sentences, you can modify the materials depending on the age population and the goals involved, as well as if you're going to use it in a classroom setting or if you're going to use it in small group therapy. I have utilized this activity various times during the spring season. Teachers love it. It collaborates with their spring theme lesson plans that they have. The students love it. They always leave smiling, and I hear them using these vocabulary post-therapy session, and I also see improvements in their grammatical goals and deficits. So, thanks for watching.